Lead stories for Thursday, April 3rd. TSMC and Intel have reached a preliminary deal where TSMC will help operate Intel's chip facilities and own a 20% stake in a new joint venture. The agreement, influenced by U.S. efforts to revitalize domestic chip production, may involve TSMC sharing manufacturing technologies and training Intel staff. While still in early stages, the move marks a surprise partnership between long-time rivals, driven by Intel's mounting losses and TSMC's industry's dominance. This is quite the headline, ladies and gentlemen, that TSMC will jump in essence, do this deal with Intel. And while it's a combined venture, it is pretty remarkable. And maybe a sign of the times that maybe Intel is vulnerable for acquisition, which would be an interesting move. And I don't understand completely what the advantage would be for TSMC to do that. But big way to get a stake here in the United States. As part of the deal, TSMC may share some of its chip manufacturing methods and train Intel employees. Of course, discussions are still underway and the fine details have not been established. The talks between Intel and TSMC, reportedly initiated by the Trump administration effort to stymie Intel's decline and bring advanced chip making to the United States. And of course, we know that TSMC is the premier, I guess for a better word, competitor with Intel. And of course, TSMC has customers like Apple and NVIDIA. So this is big news. Now, some Intel executives are said to be worried that the deal could result in layoffs because Intel would need to eliminate engineers and may need to change or sell equipment that it uses. I would think so. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this. Now, this is definitely got a political slant to it, but time will tell on how this all pans out going forward. That is for sure. So I want to welcome you to episode 1800 and I think it's 11. I'm your host, Todd Cochran. Of course, welcome to the show. An incredible shout out to our sponsor, GoDaddy. Score exclusive deals and discounts at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And of course, to all of our insiders, you're the heartbeat of the show. And if you want to support GNC, head to geeknewscentral.com/insider and become a GNC insider. We are lit and live. Don't just listen, experience the show live by grabbing a modern podcast app at podcastapps.com. Of course, you can interact there in real time. You want to make sure to check out the full Geek News Central universe at geeknewscentral.com, where you'll find all of our partner shows and tons of my content. Of course, stay in the loop. Follow or subscribe to the podcast via your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at geeknewscentral.com for even more insider scoops. Of course, you can join the conversation at geeknews.chat, or you can email me here, geeknews@gmail.com. You also can hit me up on X at Geek News, and you can even catch me over on Facebook, of course. So don't forget, Geek News Central listeners, are you really ready to save? I've got some fantastic GoDaddy deals, and get these exclusive savings right now at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy with our GoDaddy promo codes. Let's start with a website or a podcast. GNC codes make it easy and affordable. Grab GoDaddy's economy hosting for just $6.99 a month. That's a full year of hosting with a free domain name, professional email, and SSL certificate. Now, if you're interested in WordPress, which is my favorite, WordPress managed hosting is just $12.99 a month, which includes a free domain name, professional email, and an SSL certificate. If you need a domain name, get yours for just $11.99. Now, how about GoDaddy Website Builder? Get a free 30-day trial on personal business or business plus plans. Of course, Geek News Central uses all of the GoDaddy products and services, and your support keeps this podcast alive. Use our codes, click and save. Of course, you're backing this independent team of creators. Share my codes or the website link with friends and family because every time a code is used, it supports Geek News Central. Thank you for keeping us online and keeping us going strong. And again, thank you for GoDaddy for being here all these years. Of course, we did have no show on Monday, or I had no show on Monday. I was in Manila for PodFest Asia. Quite interesting to see the ongoing development of podcasting here in the Philippines and Singapore. I had guests from a couple of different countries. But I think the main takeaway really for me is that this country definitely um, has the largest number of folks that are supporting podcasts worldwide. I mean, the number of VAs was pretty amazing, and talking to different folks and networks that are being launched and money that's being invested here is pretty significant. But great time at that event. I have a short reel on X, and then some pictures on Facebook and stuff that I posted earlier in the week. But back at it, we'll have a regular show schedule here going forward. I don't think there will be any more breaks between now and when I depart the Philippines on May 11th. So that's kind of the timeline now. Definitely need to come home for the podcast show in London. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the stack. Major announcement by WordPress. They have announced major layoffs. 16% of the workforce. They say they want to become more agile and responsive, and long-term financial viability and profitability is also key. So from 1,750 employees, they're going to lay off around 280, which is really pretty remarkable. That's a pretty big number. I just wonder personally if some of the shenanigans that's happened over the past year has hurt WordPress's bottom line. Matt's been pretty aggressive with companies like WP Engine and so forth. So I just wonder, but yeah, a little chip in the armor here. They're like the 75th tech company to announce layoffs, which is pretty amazing and interesting in itself. This is an interesting, there's lots of apps out there, and some of them are more explicit than others. Obviously, you have dating apps where you put your dating profile. There are websites where you upload various information. But there's a number of apps that are, I guess, labeled, very adult in nature, kink, and not necessarily adult nature, but LGBT dating apps where private user images have been exposed. And I think the dating apps probably less impactful, but if you have a kink app and you've been uploading those types of images, researchers discovered 1.5 million pictures from specialist dating apps, many of which are explicit, being stored online without password protection, leaving them vulnerable to hackers and extortionists. Now, they've been online publicly for a while, and this company was warned some months ago, and finally they've cleared it up and made those pictures public. But those are the type of images that the majority of people, and again, no judgment here whatsoever, that upload probably do not want to be on the interwebs for sure. So there's an article over in The Verge, against very slanted, and I just want to show you a contrast and compare. The Verge is at this point publishing anything it can negatively about the current administration. I didn't see them doing this in the previous administration, but here's the title of the headline: Rural fiber internet expansion is at risk as Trump administration holds funds. A shift towards tech neutral internet could give Starlink an edge while fiber providers remain in limbo. Okay, so that's a catchy headline. And we know that rural expansion of internet, quite frankly, is way, 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 way behind. But do you know the reason? Do you know the reason why it's behind? And I retweeted this. And matter of fact, I'm going to repost it again on my X feed. But did you see the discussion between Ezra Klein and Jon Stewart in laying out the 14 steps needed to apply for Build Back Better funding for internet expansion? Have you seen this video? If you have not, this is and I don't want a copyright violation, or I would play this for you on the show right now. I'm telling you, I'll link to it in the show notes. You have to listen to it. And once you listen to it, you'll understand why rural broadband internet will never advance. 14 steps. 14 steps. Just get to the point of getting money. 14 steps. It's unbelievable. And this 5-minute and 44-second video only talks about like the first 5. And if you want to understand everything you need to know about big government programs and why they don't work, and why government is not the solution to every problem, if you think how they've given money easily to these NGOs, just throwing it away, and yet make telecoms go through 14 freaking steps, and I want to use another word, I'm telling you, you got to watch this video. Now, the reason I say compare and contrast, there is nothing, absolutely nothing in this Verge article that talks about these 14 steps. There's nothing in here. Nothing, not a thing. So if you're not watching stuff, and huge tech bias here. So I encourage you, go ahead and read the Verge article. I will link the X post right below it, and then you review, and then you come back to me via email, geeknews@gmail.com, and you tell me whether I'm right or not. Really, honestly. And once you watch the video from Ezra Klein, who is a very, 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 very liberal news source or news personality, and once you see this, then you're going to understand. The world's smallest pacemaker is injectable and powered by light. This is pretty amazing. Engineers at Northwestern University developed the world's smallest pacemaker. It's so small that it fits inside the tip of a needle and tip of a syringe, excuse me. That means it's injectable, so patients could potentially avoid a painful surgery. And it safely dissolves into the bloodstream after a time. Now, it's not designed for someone that needs a permanent pacemaker. It's powered by light, which is pretty cool. And the pacemaker is paired with a wireless wearable device that mounts on the patient's chest. It's designed for children and people that have a short term issue that may be in need of a pacemaker. So it's non invasive, very simple to install. So this is very exciting technology. We'll see as this continues to move here. I've got news on TikTok twice today. One we'll talk about at the end, and one is here at the beginning. My apologies. This morning woke up with absolute dry mouth. TikTok is facing a $500 million fine for sending private user to data. Ireland is enforcing the EU rule because of TikTok's European headquarters are in Dublin, and but yet they continue to send user data back to China. Oh, no surprise there. I think we already knew that, right? So those of you in the EU, your likes and your everything else is going back. The fine results from a 4-year investigation of TikTok's data handling process. The probe reportedly includes how ByteDance broke Europe's general data protection regulation by transferring private user data to China to be accessed by quote unquote engineers. Anyone can be called an engineer. So TikTok tells us that the EU data is transferred to the US and not to China. However, we've understood there's a possibility that maintenance and AI engineers in China may be accessing data, former Irish Data Protection Commissioner Helen Dixon said. So they're facing a 500 million euro fine. Again, you can look at it this way: EU needs a little money, or maybe this is really happening. NASA proves that its electric moon dust shield works on the lunar surface. There's no real pictures in this report, but the electrodynamic dust shield that flew aboard the Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost had a successful test. And the demonstrated ability to remove lunar dust and dirt, known as regolith, from surfaces using electrodynamic forces. So here's my question on this. Did it just shake it off and leave a film, or did it get rid of all of it? That's the question. So time will tell. But they didn't go into any data here. And the reason for the concern is moon dust, is what we're going to call it, is very abrasive and can very easily damage human lungs. So they have to figure out a solution if they're going to go back to back to the moon and do work. How many of you, switching topics here, how many of you are familiar with Google Keep? I'm not at all. I just read about this, and I guess it's the latest wowza thing that people are pretty gaga about. So Google Keep is going to get a fresh redesign, including some new features that'll make it much easier to use. I guess I'm going to have to check this out. What can you guys tell me? It's a note-taking app. I've just used Notes for years, so I guess I'm going to have to check this out. Let me know what you know about Google Keep. Dodgy Android smartphones are being preloaded with Triada malware. Victims have already lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what's happening here is either one of two things. A supply chain in an Android manufacturer has been compromised because these counterfeit Android smartphones have been preloaded with this malware. Well, they're Android phones, but they've got a bad load of Android on it. And it observed at least 2,600 victims located mostly in Russia who received the brand new smartphones carrying the Triada Trojan. Now, I will say this, and just from experience of being here up to this point, Android phones are dime a dozen. Used Android phones are dime a dozen here. I mean, every 15 feet, there's a store that's selling Android phones. And I always tell my friends, if you're going to buy one of these burner phones, make sure you do a complete reset. Now, that may not matter if it's been preloaded, and a complete reset may not fix everything and may not get rid of this base load. But what a deal. And there's opportunists everywhere in the world. And if they're going to load this and then steal crypto, oh, that's pretty smart. But they say the malware has been targeting journalists. So Kaspersky claims that 270,000 cryptocurrency has already been siphoned out, which is a pretty big number. So we will see here where this goes. Link will be in the show notes, of course. YouTube is updating Shorts with a TikTok-like editing feature. YouTube is adding new features to Shorts that aim to make it easier for creators to edit short-form videos. There are 5 new tools coming this spring, according to a YouTube announcement. So if you do a lot of shorts that you just record on your phone, I'm sure these will be welcome changes to those of you that do that. There's an article over at makeuseof.com that talk about iPhone accessories that are a total waste of money, starting with antimicrobial screen protectors, anti-radiation stickers and cases, wallet cases that act as wallets, UVC phone sanitizers, and a variety of other things here. So link will be up in the show notes on this. I think I would agree. The only way you can really protect yourself from any type of radiation from your cell phone is to not turn it on. You are going to be exposed, but you sit in front of your computer monitor and you're exposed to stuff as well. A T-Mobile bug reveals names, images, and locations of random children. Well, it's not just random children. It was everybody. But there was a GPS service called Sync Up, which allows users who are parents to monitor the locations of their children. There's a number of apps that do this as well. But apparently it had a bug and was leaking data. They have since fixed that. At the same time, Verizon has a security flaw that could allow hackers to view entire call history. They found a bug in the API, and the bug allowed threat actors to view other people's call logs. It was found in February 2025 and just fixed. So again, these bugs are going to continue to crop up. I don't think that's going to change. Of course, with the tariff announcements, big hits across the stock exchange. I think we all were kind of expecting this. Shares of Apple, Amazon, and other tech stocks are getting impacted here as the measured markets the impact. Now, countries are already squealing and starting to come to the table. And I think what we'll see here pretty quickly is tariff reductions by other countries. And that's simple. Reduce the tariffs to the United States that are imposed upon American goods, and we will reduce tariffs on products coming from your country. It's very simple. I have a tendency, and I know this is going to be painful, and it's probably, going to, a lot of you do not agree. But, at what point do we quit being the pawn of the rest of the world? So we know that Apple and Amazon heavily rely on imports from other countries like China. And we know that the 54% tariff that's going to go on effect on April 9th is very impactful. And 46% on Vietnam. But people don't realize that Vietnam puts like a 90% tariffs on American products. So we will see where this all leads. Definitely some pain here in the short term. Those of you that are running e-commerce sites, make sure you're updating Stripe, your Stripe API, because the Stripe API is being hijacked for credit card skimmers. So just be careful. And if you're using an e-commerce site out there and it's using Stripe, think twice about using it. It's about a handful, 4 dozen e-commerce sites were infected with this skimmer. Um, Especially if you get an error. If you get a credit card processing error, that's probably a good sign not to move forward to try to overcome the error. The error. Amazon is adding new benefits to Prime subscribers that gives members a better chance at buying an NVIDIA RTX 5000 or AMD RX 9070 GPU. So these things are on the absolute hot list for every techie at this point. So it's definitely something that is very, very hard to get, and you have to be watching everything like a hawk to see things. But they appeared to make some changes, meaning those who are Prime members can stand a better chance. As you can't have failed to notice, they've been heavy, heavy in demand. So what did they do? If you search for RTX 5080 or an ASRoG Astro GeForce RTX 5080, it said it's an exclusive for Prime subscribers. In other words, if you're not a Prime subscriber, you can't buy one. You're still going to fight for one of these. But at least if someone doesn't have Prime, they can't. But someone that wants one of these bad enough will sign up for Prime. Now, we talked about the Intel deal with TSMC earlier in the show, but Intel is refreshing its iconic brand. That's the power of Intel Inside. So that's curious that they're going to start this now. They are definitely in damage control mode here in a big, big way. And I think we all recognize that years ago. And Intel, AMD. But the world has changed, and sadly, Intel hasn't moved as fast as they've needed to. So we'll see what ultimately is the outcome of this. Bitcoin has slid to 81,000. So surprising Bitcoin slid here, to be honest with you. Market changes should not affect it. I think this is potentially a buy opportunity, but again, Bitcoin slid to 81,000 as the tariffs jolt stock market. And so 5% lower. Coinmetric, Ether fell 6%. Solana dropped 11%. Of course, meanwhile, stocks cratered across the market as well. But we'll see. We'll see where this continues to go. Bill Gates has unearthed Microsoft's ancient code like a proud nerd dad, according to the folks over at the Register. The founder of Microsoft shares the 4K Alatar basic source ahead of the 50th anniversary. It's available via a PDF. So if you want to see the code that was written in 1975, if you're a coder, this might be a fun thing for you to review. I'm definitely going to take a look. Does it cost anything to get it? The source code provided as a 157-page PDF, scanned fan-folded paper rather than as source in a convenient repository, and annotated disassembly of the Altar Basic 3.2 can be found on GitHub. So Definitely, if you want to take a peek at this, any coder worth his salt would want to look at this. I would think, just to see what was created so many years ago. Chrome for Android is getting extensions, so they're making some updates here. The new version is designed for larger Android devices like Chromebooks, and it's a big step. It's not for all Android phones. It's still a bit rough, no easy way to manage extensions, no toolbar button, and installing them isn't as smooth as on the desktop. So they are working on some fixes for Android as well, so be aware of that. I don't really worry too much about extensions when I'm using my Android device. In a very, very sci-techy article over at Science Focus, a 7,000-year mummy DNA has revealed a ghost, yes, a ghost branch of humanity. Ancient remains hidden in a Libyan cave had opened up the door to a long-lost human lineage. And basically, these groups of humans that lived at least 7,000 years ago in the Sahara, um, going back as far as 50,000 years, were isolated from other populations. So far to the extent that the DNA did not migrate in or new DNA migrate. Basically there was no intermixing. Um, so that's a very, very interesting, very, very interesting story in itself. So if you're into this type of history, definitely check the article out. Netflix on Samsung TV just got a whole lot better thanks to HDR10. They're going to be updating um, their smart devices. Samsung confirmed that HDR10, a content on Netflix, will now be accessible on 2025 Samsung Neo QLEDs, OLED, and lifestyle TV models. Added support for PC monitors from 2024 and 25, as well as should include some smart monitors as well. Not all TVs support the new streaming standard, but many do. So your older TVs will still work, of course. Amateur photographers are hoping to fix Wikipedia's terrible pictures, and I didn't know that was an issue. But they I guess they're going through and trying to update images. It says it's so full of notable people with very old or unflattering photographs that there are even Instagram accounts that are dedicated to this. I'm glad I have a snooze button. On the last episode, I had to edit the show. I don't normally edit, but this week I was able to hit the mute button quick enough so you all were not subjected to my raspy voice as you can hear it. Being being talked about that a week of gravity is making huge difference in the returned NASA astronauts. They look noticeably healthier just after days of returning. Now, I'm looking at the images, and the the image of Sunny is not direct on, but she does look a lot better. And Butch Wilmore says he looks better, but I guess gravity just has such a negative impact on you. I mean, not, the lack of gravity. Um, definitely less wrinkles, more fuller. Um, I would really like to see some full-on headshots to really see the difference. But um, being reported, at least they look a lot better. Miso is, man, it's a Japanese staple, and I used to make miso, or at least assist in making miso and smashing soybeans. Scientists sent beans into orbit and made space miso. And, some restaurants are so, I mean, their miso recipes are like super top secret. The space miso had a similar unami or savoriness to miso made on Earth, but according to researchers who sampled it, there was a key difference: a stronger roasted and nutty flavor. Now, they did all kinds of monitoring. They looked at radiation, they looked at temperature, and they had control samples here on Earth. So I'm sure if we get to the point where we ever are going to have miso being fermented in space, that they'll figure out their own variations of it. This next article, I'm not completely sure if it really means that Android devices are going to be able to do this, but Android's Find My Device looks to get its biggest upgrade soon, and it uses Apple's AirTag tech. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to use AirTags though, but more signs of ultra wideband in Find My devices are being spotted, and the upgrade could be rolling out imminently. And devices can be tracked more precisely with the tech. And this could open the door for additional AirTags from different companies. But I don't know if this will be supported, AirTags will be supported on Android devices. That is yet to be said. I would be shocked if they were, to be honest with you. Be cool, though. A weird iOS 18.4 bug is downloading random apps to some people's iPhones. So, this is odd. Many apps are previously deleted, but others are totally new to the user. And again, this may be something to do with 18.4. So if you see that, keep an eye on it. Proton VPN is unveiling a major revamp to its Windows, iOS, and Android apps. So I'm a Proton VPN user. I use Proton VPN almost exclusively whenever I'm logging to anything financial, anything critical from here. Largely because they just block. They block all of the traffic coming from the Philippines, and it makes sense. So I have to use a VPN to get into the content. So we'll keep an eye on this forthcoming update. Oracle's also admitting a second major security breach with user login data stolen. Several reports claim a second Oracle data breach has occurred. Oracle allegedly told some customers the data is almost a decade old. Still not good look on Oracle. In a world of increasing costs, Verizon is introducing a 3-year price lock. So is this some sort of special deal you get when you sign a contract? Well, here's the deals. Everywhere you turn, we know that prices are increasing. Verizon announced a new plan to help combat that, at least in part, a 3-year price lock for new and existing customers that seals the amount of money you pay. So what are we going to do? What's the catch? Existing customers and newcomers will receive an automatic 3-year price lock to their My Plan and My Home network plans. This is among the first of its kind in the mobile industry. It doesn't say if you have to commit. Subscribers also get an additional perk like 40% off certain streaming plans. It doesn't say directly if you have to commit to another plan or not. I think time will tell in that regard. GitHub, oh my gosh, 39 million secrets were leaked on GitHub in 2024. I think they got a problem over there. I think it's too hard to keep stuff secure. We had talked about moving our repositories to GitHub, but I'm really at this point, after reading this, I'm just wondering. With GitHub discovering roughly 39 million leaked secrets across the platform, They're going to help organizations and developers better protect tokens, credentials, and other secrets and prevent exposure. GitHub is now offering secret protection and code security as standalone products for enterprise customers. This should be for everybody. Come on. This, you put your code over there and you do revisions and updates and commits. It's got to stay secure. This should be a default deal. It really should. Sadly, Elon Musk's Tesla sales have plunged after people have went to war on Elon and Tesla, and it's plummeted to the lowest level in 3 years. Not surprising, but when you're digging and you're finding all kinds of naughtiness that's been going on, and the grift that has been happening for years, and removing people's cash cows, they get upset. They really, really do. Amazon is joining a list of TikTok suitors as deadline for U.S. buyer nears. So, of course, we know that the president gave ByteDance until Saturday to sell or divest its U.S. TikTok business. And the e-commerce giant has made a last-minute pitch. So, does this mean TikTok is going away again? The bid, first reported by New York Times, arrived this week via a letter to Vice President J.D. Vance and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Given the last-minute timing, days before a Saturday deadline to save off a ban, the bid is not being treated as serious, said the sources, who has granted anonymity. So, the president expected to weigh TikTok offers Wednesday. This is Thursday. Did he do that already? So this is an older article. Next Wednesday or this Wednesday? This article is dated the 3rd, which is today. Very weird. Well, anyway, we will see what happens with TikTok. And if you want to know what's happening on Prime Video in April, we've got the list for you available. So definitely check that out. Hey, as a reminder here, if you're not an insider already, consider becoming a Geek News Central insider. And I want to thank Roger Nash for his $2 donation and Richard Woodworth for his $10.41 Warrior donation. I definitely appreciate the ongoing support. You can become an insider at geeknesscentral.com/insider. Don't forget about our sponsor, GoDaddy, at geeknesscentral.com/GoDaddy. And send your comments to the show at Geek News on Twitter, Geek News at Gmail. Geek News at Gmail is the email address. Definitely do that. It's been my pleasure to bring you a show today. I'll be back with you on Monday for another edition of the Geek News Central podcast. Thank you for being with me. Those of you who have been watching live, thanks for hanging out. Not too many comments in per se, but thanks to all of you that have been hanging out with me. We'll see you next time here on the Geek News Central podcast.